Recently, Tay K's ex-girlfriend testified against him in court, leading many to believe that this would be it for Tay K. And obviously, I agree, but let me catch you up on everything that Tay K has done up until this point. July 26, 2016, Ethan Walker is killed in a home invasion and robbery in Texas, but Tay K claims he's innocent of the capital, but he was involved. I do want to say rest easy, Ethan. I'm sorry you had to leave this world that way. March 27th, 2017, Tay K cuts off his ankle monitor and fled, tweeting this in the process, which is pretty dumb because if you're gonna cut your ankle monitor off and do the dash, why would you announce it? But to be honest, making good music doesn't mean that you're intelligent, so April 23rd, 2017, Tay K had allegedly shot Mark Saldivar, a photographer in a Chick-fil-A parking lot near the North Star Mall. The situation that had occurred was that apparently an argument started between three men and a woman while Mark was riding in a sedan. Mark stood on the hood of the car, kicked it, and then someone leaned out and shot him. The car was gone by the time police arrived. According to Lucia Saldivar, who is Mark's mom, Mark had resisted getting robbed by Tay K, which led to the shooting. And once again, I want to say rest easy, Mark. I'm sorry that this had to happen to you. May 25th, 2017, Skip Pepe, a 65-year-old man, had been beaten and robbed at gunpoint by Tay K.
Wallet. You know, the second time it was, I have a gun, hand me your wallet.
65-year-old Skip Pepe was on this walking trail in Cravens Park 2 Thursdays ago, broad daylight. At first, he thought the young man with the gun was joking.
I looked at him and I says, get the hell out of here.
It happened just feet from houses, just a few yards from cars passing on Silo Road.
And I was trying to make my way, not running, but, you know, walking real fast. And I'm waving him, trying to wave him down and say, you know, stop, stop, I'm being robbed, help me, help me.
I can't get down with this at all, and I won't show it, but there is a lot of proof of Pepe's injuries, and even in the video, despite him having healed considerably since the incident, he's still banged up. And at this point, Tay K had been leaving a very, very obvious paper trail of what he's been doing, and it was only inevitable that in the future, it would have eventually caught up to him. You announce that you cut off your ankle monitor and then go and do violence everywhere. That's really dumb, but let's continue. June 16th, 2017, Tay K arrives in New Jersey, but he also drops the race on SoundCloud, which we all know by now directly references him cutting off his ankle monitor and even appearing next to his real life wanted poster. And had this situation not been so severe and he wasn't going around harming actual people, this would have been such a fire music video. It just gets ruined by all the stuff that he's done. June 26, 2017, 10 days after the race gets released, Tay K has now been announced as a violent fugitive and wanted for capital murder. And
police are still searching for a 17-year-old murder suspect described as a violent fugitive. Law enforcement sources confirm that Tamor Trevon McIntyre is a suspect in a murder case in Mansfield and in a robbery in Arlington, and tonight his victims are speaking out. NBC5's Scott Gordon.
And while this is happening, Skip Pepe has identified Tay K as his attacker based on a photo lineup. So then at this point, the clock is actually ticking for Tay K. The police are slowly zeroing in on where he is. And then 4 days later, the race goes viral and hits number 44 on the Billboard Hot 100. Tay K also drops the music video for it and promotes it on his Twitter. And today, the video is at 250 million views, which is just crazy work. And crazy enough, Tay K is arrested the same day the music video drops in Elizabeth, New Jersey. July 20th, 2017, a judge orders Tay K to Tarrant County Jail to be held in an adult jail, which is obvious because at this point, they are treating this man like an adult. But later in this video, I do want to briefly touch on some of Tay K's circumstances growing up because while this is not an excuse, it is an explanation for this behavior. And I think it's important to talk about this so, you know, hopefully we can prevent this in the future. And that just starts with awareness. But I will also say, even being a child, you should understand the weight of human life. So like that's why it's not an excuse. That's really crazy to go out of your way to do that to someone. June 25th, 2018, Lucia Saldivar, Mark Saldivar's mom, files a wrongful death lawsuit against Tay K. With this suit, we learn more details about what happened, such as the fact that he was robbed of his camera equipment and was forced out of the vehicle. Mark then jumped on the hood of the car to stop them, and Lucia accuses Tay K of then pulling out a gun gun to shoot him, leaving him in the streets to pass, and then abandoning the car at a restaurant. July 19th, 2019, Tay K is found guilty of murder and aggravated robbery for the fatal encounter he had with Ethan Walker, and 4 days later, he was sentenced to 55 years in prison and fined $21,000. And at this point, Tay K's life is done. 55 years is essentially life, man. You miss literally all the best moments of life. 55 is such a long time. And back then, I just remember there being tons of jokes referencing Tay K's sentencing, like how he's gonna miss GTA 6, how he's gonna get out when the PlayStation like 40 or 50 drops. And then when we did end up seeing Tay K, he ended up being bald and wearing the Clark Kents for some reason. He just had spectacles on. November 15th, 2019, Tay K was indicted on the capital murder charge for the death of Mark Saldivar, and 6 days later, court date was set for February 7th of this year, with the testimony set to 10th on February 3rd of this year. The judge granted a delay request, pushing the jury selection to March 31st and a testimony to April 1st, which is 8 days ago. Apparently, the defense had retrieved more evidence and is waiting for some expert reports.
I'm only giving you all 30 days because let me just tell you, I don't know if you all remember, but this case has been on the docket since 2019.
And if Tay K gets convicted of this murder, he officially gets a life sentence. I mean, that's crazy, but 55, like I said, is damn near life. If I got 55, man, I'm gonna just reset my character. There's no point after that. But let's take a look at his ex-girlfriend's testimony, now that you're finally caught up.
We hit the light at McCullough, and Tamar took out his gun and pointed it at Mark and asked for his bag. Mark refused to give him the bag, so they all started hitting him, and Tamar was hitting him with the gun, and I started telling them to let him go, and I just kept screaming, let him go, and Jalen opened the door and started pushing him out, and he was fighting to get back in the car. I didn't let him in the car, so he went around the car and he jumped on the hood, and then the light turned green.
Once the light turned green, what happened?
He pointed the gun at me and told me to start driving. So I started driving. I didn't know where to go, so I turned into the first place that I saw, which was the Chick-fil-A. Once I turned into the Chick-fil-A, he kept yelling at me to get him off the car. I didn't know how to, so I was just going back and forth really quickly. And then Mark kicked the windshield, and Tay K opened the door and shot him.
So this girl was the getaway driver in this organized robbery. The full story, according to her, is that Tay K and his homeboys attempted to rob Mark. This was a setup, but Mark wasn't going for that. So after getting forced out of the vehicle, he jumped on the hood. This was his attempt to resist. And while he was doing this, simultaneously, the ex was driving on the road, which is insane to me because I've been doing research and writing at the same time as I learned these facts. So to hear that Mark was on this car on the road and she was driving, attempting to make him fall off is so heartbreaking. Mark, you're a strong soul. But eventually, she turns into the Chick-fil-A and Tay K shoots. This lines up with what the mom was saying, and all I can say is that throw Tay K under the jail. He does not need to get out. And I know she's crying, but in my opinion, she's far from innocent. And at this point, Tay K had already had one murder under his belt, so like, why are you hanging with him? But now I want to talk about Tay K's home life a little bit and how this led to his downfall and this saturnine path. Tay K had been in foster care growing up, which is obviously terrible, and he had an absent father.
Been in foster care since we were like really young, like damn near all our life, you feel me? Like, so we never stayed with our parents. We kind of stayed in different foster homes.
Tay K's sister also says her and Tay K were always together. It was just them. It was, and they had to run away.
We ran away. We had to run away. That's why all this shit happened, because it was not like even good when we came to our dads. You feel me? Like, not even like that. Like, a lot of dudes don't try with their kids and shit. Like, so I give my dad that. I'm not saying he's a terrible dad, but hey, bro, like, life was messed up. Like, we kind of like, it was a going on in our home.
And then one of the reasons they had to run away was because their trust was broken after being betrayed by so many people.
And then at this point in our life, like, we felt like we had like entrusted our lives to so many people. And then what, you know, like, You feel me? Like they did us any type of way because we're kids, bro.
I recommend you go and watch this full interview by Say Cheese. It's really sad, but I did want to mention it because these broken homes make broken people who then go on to do real harm. So Tay K was cursed from the start. So much potential this guy had, but the curses he had to endure were just too much for him. And this is not to defend him, but rather to reflect on the harsh reality black kids have to face. Rest in peace to Mark and Ethan. I'm sorry y'all had to get caught up in this. It's a sick situation all around. But what do y'all think? Do you think had Tay K grown up in a better environment, he'd be one of the biggest artists out right now? Or was this merely a product of spectacle egged on by the world? That's all I had to say. I'm gonna get up out of here. Peace.
She said, do you love me? Told her that I love me.